The only thing you won't see if there's any comments sent to the public list, but you'll see that generally that is when you start moving plans
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Start.
No, we've got to run some things off track. Has everybody signed in?
No.
Has anybody got any declarations of interest? Regina? No, that's...
Anything to declare?
Yes, any chocolate eclairs?
There we go, start.
Just the declarations of interest, we have no interest. No, it's the third one in, so I don't think we need to. I don't believe it. But I think if they use art, then I think it's something where they are still relevant.
I don't know yet.
10:30 is possible.
It's just because it's part of the
Yeah.
doesn't mean that people don't use it.
If you can extend, if you can get those,
It's just like a touch
yeah,
point.
that'd be great.
All over it.
I'll find it before. Pencil it in and I'll be going tomorrow.
Are we there?
Last time you kept it up and the back of your head.
That's the best place, nice.
I know, I think so.
Best place is the back of the road.
I don't want it on
Is the castle's one still out of use? Is it on? Whether it works is another.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I think we can safely start. This is a meeting, Oakham Town Council's Planning and Parks Committee. It's 7 p.m. It's Wednesday, November the 25th, 2015. Welcome to the councillors. Welcome to the members of the public. Item 1, the apologies. Receive apologies for absence. I think we've only got John Kennedy.
Yeah.
We've got a long-standing prior arrangement, so proposal to accept John's absence. Michael Elliott, seconded by Vince. All those in favour? That's unanimous then. Thank you. There we are. Declarations of interest. Members are asked to declare, if required, any disclosable pecuniary interest they may have in respect to items of the agenda and any other interests. Are there any interests tonight that have been known? Brilliant, okay. And obviously, just remind all members to inform the clerks of any changes in your register of members' interest. Item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the Planning and Parks Committee held on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015. Anybody got any comments or observations? Can we have a proposal to accept them by Stan, seconded by Joyce? All those in favour? Who's saying? Okay, what is in a minute? I think Jasmine is it?
Jasmine and Al.
Jasmine, yeah. So everyone else is in favour, and just Jasmine and Al for abstaining. Yeah. Okay, members' reports. Any reports from any of the members?
Oh,
No, there's no. No, there was no council questions.
Because that's the main meeting.
Yeah, I'll go across it through. So, any no questions at that point. Members' reports. Any members got any reports? No? Wow. Should we quit now or we're ahead? The only thing I'd like to add here is that the anticipated light, erecting the lights on the High Street has started today. It was meant to start on Monday. There was a delay because of a family bereavement within the teams. But the house site, they've actually been on site with them at 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, and we've done a walk of the town, and then we'll see what happens. Okay? That's it, really. Thank you. Is there anything from the clerk's report?
No.
Obviously, the clerk's not here this evening because it's Planning and Parks and Alison Clark's looks after that. Right, deputation by the public. Item 7. Members of the public are invited. Right, okay, members of the public are invited. So we're going to look at the public. So obviously, Mr. Beach, you made it away. You could like to speak.
Somebody wants to go. I'm last in, so.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you're obviously aware that you've got 3 minutes, but I think you know that anyway. But please, Mr. Peter, carry on.
Put your clock on, Mr. Chairman.
I've clocked it. Look, I've got it going here.
It's 519 words.
Oh, right, okay, cool.
Right, okay, first of all, I've read the report. This is to do with, I'm not sure what item number it is, to do with the hotel on the bypass. Not the one here in town. No issues with that one at all.
Okay.
And I've read the report, as I'm sure all of you have done here also. By Hogsmeade, and it is all centred on a national experience, and that's what I want to try and put across. That's as far as all the numbers are concerned and all the data that they have put down. And it's applied particularly to large cities and much larger populated areas. All the statistics provided are based on national trends, when ours in Oakham bears no relation to those trends at all. Rutland has a limited offering when you look at the attractions available nationwide. It mentions the Olympics and the Rugby World Cup as attractions that will promote accommodation in hotels, but can anybody give me any attractions here or anything that's accommodation in particular that's benefited from the Olympics and from the Rugby World Cup? Didn't think so. So the question is a hotel outside of the town centre a sustainable option? If you look at the current listing of accommodation in Rutland, I believe you'll find that they have difficulty filling their rooms on a regular basis, and we speak from experience. And besides, the list that is shown in the report, I think you'll find the majority on there are well established. And there are a few B&Bs, but even the fact that there are B&Bs here locally in the town that are not registered, that don't pass any criteria, that are not up to standards as far as standards are concerned. We've been running a B&B here in Oakham for 16 years, and we've been a 4-diamond registered bed and breakfast all of that time. Okay, and our experience as a registered 4-star member of the AA, it means that we get inspected every year, we get not interrogated every year, but we certainly get asked certain paternal or questions that we are relevant. The proposed hotel will come at a time when there is already an application before you tonight for one in the town, which I would certainly go for. I think there's a lot more work to be done on the proposal, on the application. And my conclusion, particularly from a gentleman called Mr. Wayne Healy, who I don't know, has put in some remarks about the hotel being only 30 feet from his front door. I can imagine that he's going to be particularly concerned about that. Accommodation in Oakham, in Rutland, or staffing anyway, staffing in accommodation has increased. But the amount of tourist numbers has been reduced by about 500,000 between 2007 and 2013. That's in the report.
Okay.
Not our figures, those figures. So, finally,
Yep.
can I just say that if your intention is to do anything, I think you ought to defer this decision. You need a lot more information. It's old information. It's information that's been on the book since 2007, not current.
Okay.
Okay?
Good. Thank you. Open. Yep. Hello. Good evening. Mr.
Romney.
Romney, that's
I
right,
attend the following
Okay. And you're talking on the
following Royce on Royce Park.
item 10, the
Yeah.
poll. Okay.
As the column of fittings on the Royce Green are still in place, I felt I had to address the council again on this matter. Forgive me if you already know what I'm about to say. A petition was handed into RCC by local residents. It was completed in a hurry, it has to be said. We were going on holiday for 2 weeks and really wanted to show what the local feeling was. We didn't knock on doors, we completed the petition as and when we saw people. Hence, not many households are listed. At the public meeting, we were told by Mr. Crouch that the petition was weighted. As some of the names did not live in the adjacent roads to Royce Green, albeit these individuals use the park every day on a regular basis. So RCC disregarded the full number and those people's opinions were ignored. Taking out those numbers, we calculate that there are still at least 20 people who said that the column and CCTV was either unnecessary or in the wrong place. I have handed round a copy of the petition.
Thank you, got that.
At the public meeting, Mr. Crouch held at RCC. After some questioning, Mr. Crouch said he was going to have a meeting the very next day at the park to see what other locations within the grounds would be an alternative location for the poll. In fact, that took place 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks later. And no mention of the finding from that was in the letter that I understand they sent to you, although I know it took place. The knock on the door exercise that was done by RCC was on the 5th of November, bonfire night, which included some properties on Cold Overton Road, but none on Lonsdale, which also backs onto the field. To our knowledge, Cold Overton Road had not been contacted before, so why, especially when they fail to inform or contact all of Westfield Avenue residents, some of which have never been contacted, even though they have the column clearly in sight from their properties? Again, it seems the chosen few were picked. Why? One lady on Cold Overton Road corner couldn't speak at the time. Her dog was in discomfort over the fireworks. but dearly wanted to state her disapproval and asked them to come back, which they didn't. The question asked at the door by RCC was, question, how do you feel about CCT coverage on the park? Understandably, most people were for it, as indeed we are, if it is in the correct place. If the question had been, would you like the column CCTV camera to be relocated to allow face recognition in problem areas, I'm sure we would get 100% of people saying yes, which goes to prove figures can be manipulated as easily giving a leading question. I myself am not against CCTV as long as its location is justifying the cost and is fit for purpose, which this is not. Since the pole has been there, the play equipment has been attacked and vandalised twice. Even if the camera was working, it is too far away from the problem area to recognise the perpetrators.
We're at a 4-minute point, so if you can...
Oh, I've got to finish, just basically, and to sum up this, although they've done their survey, this is still not fit for purpose. It's in the wrong place. You're not going to get the benefit that it's needed for, and we would still ask you to refuse and ask it to be relocated. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Yours is 4 minutes, Simon. Brilliant. Well, it's difficult. I appreciate it's always difficult to put over points where the public are so passionate about it as well. So we appreciate the time you've taken out.
Thank you.
I'm not planning on moving the agenda items around because the CCTV poll comes up in three agenda items. So I'm not going to move anything at the moment. Has anybody else got anything to say from the public or not? No? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take with the agenda, we're going to go to item 8, which is a request to use cuts close. This is to consider a request from the Cottesmore Hunt to use cuts close on Boxing Day's meet, to decide whether to approve the request. I'll open the comments on this briefly, that it is a meet, it's not a hunt. I know the hunts are meeting there, but they're meet. Fox hunting is anything banned. So it's not about fox hunting, this is about a tradition that Cottesmore Hunt has done. Let's focus on that as an agenda item. And it's not, it might be of interest to know that next year is definitively a 300-year anniversary for Cottesmore's association with the county, and they have been meeting in Cuts Close for many years, and I've got a photograph in this book here that shows that they did it 100 years ago. So I've done my research, so it's not a win. Okay. Open this up to the table, and we can either move round or wait for it to finish. Thank you.
My only concern is that they've put on their letter for their request that a clean up tea in the park after the meet. I would like a caveat on that says providing any damage is either paid for or repaired, and now I propose that this is put through as a agenda item.
Not having a debate.
Well, I've noted Vince's comments that he would say that if they go ahead that they also would repair any damage. So I think we've had this before, that when there was big chunks taken out, they didn't just clear up the horse manure, but they also repaired the holes from the horses. So moving around, anybody? Michael?
Yeah, honestly, next agenda item we need to consider it is that the circus is also requesting the use of the land. Is there room for both a hunt and the circus?
The hunt normally congregate on the edge near Burley Road car park in the dip, predominantly where the skate park is and over towards Burley Road. And the people that go there, which can be 500-600 people at least, congregate on the mounds, the hills, or the old sort of parts of the moat that look down on where the hunt collect. My perspective is that who would both fit first. That's a good idea. Anyway, anybody else got any comments? Alan?
Would there be any conflict then if we are renting out Cuts Close to the circus, that they may say, well, we've rented the park, but you're also allowed the hunt?
We don't charge the hunt.
I know, but you charge the circus, or we charge the circus.
We charge the circus, yeah. Well, we charge organisations that are there on profit making.
But but the circus will be charged,
Yeah.
and will there be any comeback from them to say, well, we've already paid for this, but you're allowing them free on the same day?
No, because the stance that we took when we agreed to do charges on the area was that it would be based on charitable organisations wouldn't pay it, and the hunt actually used that opportunity to raise money for charity. Yeah.
I'm not making that point.
No,
What I'm saying is that the circus are paying for Cuts
Yeah.
Close.
No, well, if they get on with it, yeah.
If we agree to it, they are paying for Cuts Close, are they going to then come back and say, well, we paid for Cuts Close, but you allow somebody else on as well?
They might do, but I don't see it as an issue. At the end of the day, it's our park, not theirs. We determine how it's going to be used.
Okay.
Stan?
My remark really is a bit negative, I suppose, because I think one of the things which you have to take into consideration is the weather prior to the meet. If there has been a lot of rain, it will be just mud everywhere.
Yes,
So that's a fact.
we have this before.
So what happens after that? What's the recovery?
Yep, that's a valid point, and this has come up before on the hunt, had to come back and do some repair work, but I'm saying that, we had it with the fairground once, where they had to come back a week or so later when their vehicles churned up and put great big channels in the soil, so it would fly both ways. But previously the hunts have cleaned up after themselves.
Right.
That's coming
Sorry
back.
to come back again, but we must have a caveat in that contract.
Yep. About making sure it's put through.
Making sure it's made
Yep.
good as found.
Okay. Jasmine, do you want to make any comment?
I've got several.
Several comments. Okay.
I'm glad about it. We've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to start the clock on Jasmine.
Well, firstly,
Yeah.
I have been asked to pass on from a county councillor quite a few residents raising concerns over Oakham Town Council seeming to support the hunt by letting it start there and it not going out to public consultation for public grounds.
Okay.
That's point one. One with the circus, so that's already been mentioned. Now, I agree it's a traditional thing, but my argument is there's quite a lot of things that have fallen under being traditional that no longer happen. Capital punishment, caning children in schools, the list is endless.
Yeah.
I'm wary that now in September this year, one of the workers was pleaded guilty and fined for covering badger sex.
Yes, this is in the paper already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so they start the hunt at Cuts Close and you read their website and they go off and legally do their hunt. But if they are sticking within the law, why are they filling badger sex?
Why is one individual? Let's not condemn.
But would you not have been told what to do by the people
Okay.
doing the hunt?
No, right, okay.
And I just think we need to be careful with it being such a politically sensitive thing of
Yep.
seeming to support it. There are plenty of other places they can start their hunt from.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Martin?
Yes, I have similar reservations to the councillor here. I do go down and photograph it every year. It's quite a spectacle, tradition. In fact, I said to the councillor here that, we don't throw people to the lions anymore. So on the same basis, traditions, fox hunting is quite barbaric. Before I looked into this, when I moved to Oakham, I thought, oh, it's just a meet. And they bring the eagle down, and when you actually look into it and find out that everyone's going up, what a lovely eagle, that eagle tears a fox to pieces. Cottesmore Hunt haven't been prosecuted that many times. They have been prosecuted before, and they're probably not the only one in Leicestershire. Atherstone, I think, is in trouble at the moment, but they all come very close to the line. In 2004, it was reported in the Melton Times that they were going to break the law, and many years we've had very explicit stickers on vehicles, people. I won't say the word, but some of you might know it. It refers to Tony Blair. It is a political event. The huntsmaster makes a speech not all the public may hear that, but it is political. And Cuts Close is not a political playground. It's a place for people to go and enjoy. Moving on to the next item of the circus, most of these circuses and fairs have dogs attached to their caravans. The hounds...
Sorry, you said we're not talking about that?
No, I'm just saying
Oh, right,
a
okay.
concern, but we've got to make a decision,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Most of them have dogs. The hounds, great, but very unruly. They get into trouble when they go to Uppingham because they run in and out of the pubs, the shops, you know, they run everywhere in Cuts Close. Are they going to fight a dog that's chained? You know, that's the issue I have. I'd much rather see that they go somewhere else. When this council hesitated about it a couple of years ago, they did approach the people in charge of the marketplace. They said no. Now you have to ask why they said no.
Okay, all right.
And also, if you are going to go with it, each year the consumption of alcohol has increased to the extent, and I've mentioned it as a member of the public, that they set up a table and bar in our park. Now, an ordinary man in this town, I saw at an event, was approached by the police and had his beer tipped away. He wasn't bothering anyone, it was due to the nonsense rule we have in the park.
Right,
But
okay.
nobody stops these people knocking back quite a large consumption of alcohol on Boxing Day morning because they're more important. And I just find it, well, I won't get too passionate about it, but I just find it's a spectacle. That's why people go.
Right.
Online, people have said to me...
I'm going to stop you there.
Sorry, I'm just saying, online, people have said that they hate this event.
Point of
Please
order, Councillor
support
Brooks.
the
I'm now
circus.
stopping you there. It's 50, you've gone 3 minutes 15 and it's now starting to get personal. So for your own benefit, I'm stopping you there.
There's no time limit to what you have, and I was winding it up. You always interrupt when I was winding it
Councillor,
up.
did you want to add anything to this debate?
Can they be asked to start in the marketplace?
Sorry.
No, the marketplace don't want them.
You said, can they be asked to start in the marketplace?
Right.
Councillor Lucas.
I will be voting against this. I have asked for years, so I'll say it again to the new members. They come, the horses and dogs defecate.
And urinate.
Can I not be
Sorry,
interrupted?
Joyce. I just got a bit wound up, sorry.
They defecate, the lads come, they clean up the horse muck. Sorry to have to be blunt. The dogs that are the visitors are let to roam freely. They defecate, the lads don't pick up the dog muck. We've had snow where everybody's been walking in the mess, churning up the mess with snow. Now, I have been saying for ages it should be in the marketplace where there are pubs. That's what it's about the stirrup cup. Now, what is the difference? I do not know, but Uppingham on New Year's Day hold the meet is held on New Year's Day in Uppingham in the marketplace. Now, don't tell me that our marketplace can't accommodate. That's what I've heard the clerk say. It's not big enough. Well, Uppingham manage. It's easy to pick up the mess. Uppingham don't have it on Todd's Piece. They have it in the marketplace, and I cannot see why we have to have it on grassland. It's not a question of whether I'm for the meat, for the hunt, against the hunt. I'm against where it is held.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm not going to ask for any more comments from anybody else. Vince said that he would, and hopefully he will still stick with this, so that he would support this going ahead with a caveat, which I think the same as what our comments will add in, is that any damage and any mess is cleared up as they've done in previous years. So the proposal,
They haven't, though, sorry,
thank you,
sir.
Councillor Lucas.
They haven't cleared heard of.
Councillor Lucas, point of order. It's good enough for Councillor Brooks, it's good enough for everybody.
That's
We'll not
my-
have interruptions in this meeting.
That's my apology.
Councillor Lucas, Thank
That
you.
was my apology,
make a note.
sir.
I apologise, Councillor Lucas, for interrupting her while she was apologising to me. Councillor?
I'd like to add a caveat that they don't set up or are not permitted to set up a bar in our park.
That's a good point.
I'm more than happy to add that caveat to the proposal.
Okay, so at the moment we've got a proposal from Councillor Howard that if it goes ahead, that they clean up any mess, they clean up any damage, and that the setting up of a bar is perceived to be inappropriate and shouldn't go ahead. Yes?
Well, it is actually illegal.
Yes. Yeah.
Part of our bylaw says that you can't drink in the park.
Yes.
So therefore, as long as they abide by that, then that'll be fine.
Yes, we'll let you feel that. Anyway, so that's the proposal. Anybody want to second that? Drunken disorderly, yeah. I'll second that proposal then. So proposed by Vince, seconded by Adam. All those in favour of this issue? Do you and I, isn't it? Anybody else? All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2, 4, the rest against. So 4. Okay. Can you?
Apologies for getting a bit over. But I was
I
quite
mean,
passionate about this.
guys, at one point, guys and ladies, at one point we mentioned Romans in the deputation. With all due respect, let's stick to the point. Romans. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I'm really offended by that.
Have you ever through any Christians to the line?
No.
Number 9 then.
Right. So obviously, can we notify the hunt about that? Obviously, we can't do any more on that.
Romans.
The Romans will do first. That's what I know. Right. Number 9 is request to use cuts close. Good night, Miss Beach. Request to use cuts close. Anybody want to kick this off?
I'd like to start on that one.
Yep.
Previous to the other one, the damage of the park was mentioned. Yeah. It was on a four-legged animal which actually used to go round in the field, whereas we will be bringing on lorries which are probably about 25 tonnes worth of vehicle on 4 tyres, which has the potential of ripping up an ancient monument. So therefore, I would like to kick this off by saying we would like to offer them alternative location. Probably Royce Plainfield might be a good point.
Showing up Royce.
Wow.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, I don't think I've
Turn around the table. Well, this we want by the CCTV if it gets fitted, isn't it?
How much will they pay?
It's £100 a day they get charged.
And they have to make good.
They have
Don't make good any damage.
Terms and conditions, sorry.
Yeah, Alison's right.
And what's the history? Have they made good damage?
There's only one instance. I've noticed you might. There's only one occasion when we've I believe we had a fair on the place, and they came back about a week later after that because they couldn't do it straight away, and it was inappropriate to do it straight away because of how solid the ground was. So they came back a week or so later and filled in the holes and grassed it. They only seed it. They don't do more than that. Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anyway, go around. Al, Sam?
No,
Seven?
Yeah, will they, as well as leaving it as it stands, will they take some responsibility for any extra rubbish while we're there that may accumulate?
You could build that into the proposal if it goes ahead, that they make sure that they clean that for themselves.
That's fine.
And leave any loose changes. Martin?
Yes, they hadn't told us in this whether they're actually going to put something on Boxing Day. I'd like to think, because maybe the public hadn't seen this, it's not just curious circus, it's a very family-orientated thing and a small fun fair and that, and I think that it would be very good if perhaps, if it is on cuts close, that the town council, because we don't actually do anything with the money we get from it, is that we don't charge them on the basis that perhaps on Boxing Day they put something on for the public, family.
Maybe
Because
the
they
horses
do-
and dogs down there, people in the hotels.
Well, no, Adam, we've moved on from there.
Oh, right.
But people, when we were on that subject, people do come down for something, and that's something that's not going to happen this year, is over very quickly, and people wander around aimlessly. So I was just thinking if the council could approach these people on the basis that we waived the fee in return for perhaps free funds there Boxing Day afternoon, and then they paid for their tickets for the workshops for the children.
Michael?
Can the issue about the indentations of 20-ton lorries be solved by them being forced to put down heavy duty, Royal Engineer style matting?
Probably not.
The problem that you may encounter at the moment is that that soil on Cuts Close is heavily waterlogged as we stand at the moment. Somebody has taken a car from the Burley Road entrance and driven it all the way around the park, and it's left an indent of about 1.5 inches into the soil of the park itself. So if you were to put some form of Bailey type, yes, I would agree, but I would dare say that you wouldn't be able to cover the whole park, and if you were there for over a week, you would damage the grass.
Yeah, it would kill the... Okay.
That would be my personal...
I think it would probably, they wouldn't want to come along based on cost alone, because I would think they haven't got that. And I saw what they did when they did the trees around the castle. And that,
killed the grass, and that was less than...
Good point, well brought out. I think it might be a non-starter. Any other comments on this? Okay.
The only comment I've got, of course, that circuses were on Royce's wreck.
But to be fair, circuses and fairs
Well,
historically are not on either park in the winter. And are we being used as a winter store for a week for £100 a day?
I don't know. Right, let me just come over to Council Brooks again, and then I'll come to Mr.
No, they live on a huge site in Creetham.
Right,
and we also do accommodate Pindar Circus during the winter months.
Right, okay.
And it's very well attended.
Sorry.
What I want to say is talking about Royce's, I personally would be anti-Royce, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of houses down that road, and if I was living in one of those houses, I wouldn't want that fair there, and I'm willing to bet that if you knock on every door and ask them whether they'd like to see a circus there, they would say no.
Okay, George.
I was only commenting on that because members of the public perhaps didn't know that there were used to be circuses. That's all.
Okay.
Yes,
sorry. Focus.
I think it's
okay, so we got a proposal then from anybody on this. Should anybody want to propose that we allow Chipperfield to buy?
Well, I'd like to sort of members to consider what I asked about the Boxing Day thing. At some point over the Christmas period, that it's sponsored by Oakham Town Council rather than just taking £600 from them and stashing it away for something else.
If the council are of a mind to propose that the Chipperfields are allowed to use it, provided they get 1 day free because they allow 1 day worth of local events.
I think we need to vote on it first.
Yeah.
So let's establish whether we want the circus there. So anybody want to propose that the circus is Chipperfields is using the park? Right.
It's more than a circus, isn't it? It's a circus, the workshops.
That's a Chipperfield circus.
Yeah.
So are you proposing
I propose that they're given permission.
Right, Councillor Brooks is proposing that the circus is allowed to go ahead on Cuts Close. A seconder for that.
Sorry, can we have in it that being letters found and a daily?
Yes, all the normal caveats that it has to be all repair, any damage has to be put back.
Sorry.
Throughout the period as well. It's going to be more rubbish.
Once we've agreed if they're going to use it, are we going to then move on to like the things like, as it says in there, the cost and any caveats that can be added?
We can do that. Let's establish if they're going to get on there first. I'll do it as a second bit to this. So anybody want to second that proposal? Gentlemen, all those in favour of Chipperfield using Cuts? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 3. On Vince, are you?
No, I'm saying.
Okay, so it would be going on.
3 against, 1 abstention, 4.
Yeah, so that means they'll go there. And just as an addition to that agenda item, I'm not sure how you're going to do this. really, if I'm honest with you, that the circus put on some free workshops or something. If we
Well,
only
I think
charge.
maybe Boxing Day, if we can come to some negotiation with Richard, that cost is reduced from the fee,
Anybody got any comments on
because
that?
I think that would be a nice sort of thing for the
What
town
can I say
council.
no?
If they say no, then they get charged £500, they get charged £100 a day.
I'm not sure where we're going with this. It's a good idea, but I'm not sure where we're going.
What I'd suggest is that we, once you communicate with them and sort of say, look, it's going to cost £100 a day, however, if you do something which is free entry on Boxing Day, then we could leave
We
what
can
they
leave
pay.
it to Richard
And
to
a
negotiate,
proposal for that.
Yeah,
and then we
so
can
that's
have
a proposal.
publicity for
That'll
it.
be a proposal, are you happy to make that as a proposal then?
Yeah, because, but then if they say no, they say
The
no.
proposal is that they are told that they can go on Cuts Close, obviously, that it's £100 a day, but would they be prepared on Boxing Day to put on some free events or not charge, and we will not charge them for that day? And the negotiation goes off between the clerk and them.
They don't pay for one day.
They don't pay for one day. If they say no, then they pay for it. Okay? So that's pretty much the proposal, isn't it? Proposed by Martin, Mike proposed it. Anybody want, seconded by Michael? All those in favour of that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? I'm against. Michael's against, and Vince is abstaining. Okay, that was straightforward, wasn't it? Item 10. Right, consider a summary of the recent consultation and decide as whether to allow CCTV poles situated. Now, I was the person that turned around and said to Hugh Crouch, who as it happens unfortunately is ill today anyway and couldn't make it, that we did not need to hear any more from Rutland County Council, because I felt that those of us that had attended the consultation, I think George, Martin and members of the public, that we'd gleaned enough information. I've looked at it on the web, I've looked at the communications, members of the public, there's communication being going back by from yourselves, isn't there, to Hugh Crouch, and I've seen those as well. Mark Lauren, isn't it? Mark Lauren. I've seen communications from Mark Lauren in regard to this, answering questions that have been brought up since the consultation. I'm going to pass this around the table. Anybody got any comments or observations they'd like to make? Okay, Michael.
Well, I'm not sure what it was you heard, but the gentleman who spoke earlier said quite categorically that the sample of opinion that was taken was loaded.
Yes.
In the sense that a leading question was asked and not the relevant question. So that seems as if that whole work was irrelevant.
That appears to be the case, and whereas, with all due respect, it might sound like I'm talking out of turn now, I've seen the documents that have also been sent through from Mark Lauren, and I've also heard what Hugh Crouch has said, and I think it's fair to say that their interpretation of it contradicts the members of the public. So, and I'm not saying that we believe or disbelieve either Rutland County Council or members of the public. We have to make a decision based on it's our land, it's a CCTV pole. Do we feel it's inappropriately sited? Do we feel it will achieve the end? So the consultation which took place, when at the last meeting the town council said we could not pass it because we felt they had not done a full and thorough consultation. But still feel that hasn't been achieved because it's got loads of questions. Mark Lauren and Hugh Crouch returned and said, well, we have done it. Only 2 people turned up at the consultation at the council. The majority of people that they spoke to on the door-to-door knocks have said, albeit with these loaded questions, were in favour of it. I think the councillors have to decide, do they believe what this says and what the members of the public here say, or do they believe what the county council say, and do we need to have that CCTV pole in that situation? Do we need to have it somewhere else on Cuts Close?
Well, it seems such a fundamental point, that the question you ask, and if you ask the question, do you believe that there should be some cover for the area? The gentleman said the general view of one thing. If you ask a narrow, specific question, should it be cited where it is or not?
Everyone says yes.
That's a totally different question. If they didn't ask that question, we should be able to see how it's in any way.
I'm going to come around the table that way, that's where I started this time. I'll come to mine.
Yeah, I've not been happy with this from the start, and I've not read that Rutland County Council have made a number of apologies, and I don't think they've actually apologised to this council for what they've done, but they've apologised via their leader to the members of the public via that meeting. From what I gauge, no one objects in principle to the CCTV. They may feel they don't need it, but the pole itself is huge. It's in the wrong place. Visually, I'm not looking at it from whether I live there or whether whatever. I look at it as a person who walks past and thinks, what's that doing there? You know, it is in the wrong place.
So you're against it?
Yeah, I'm just going to,
Yeah,
and obviously...
I'm just making notes.
You know, you put me off. But you know, as the member of the public said, I was at that meeting, and it was actually my request that the expert went with Rutland County Council the next day, was their answer, to look for an alternative position in that road. They haven't done it, or they may have visited, but they've not put an alternative forward because they want to put it on our land. Now, my view is if the council votes for it, that is land we hold, whether in trust or whatever, for the public. So if Rutland County Council, like if we want to put a bench or a bollard, we have to have certain legal documents. And I believe that if the pole has to stay, which I don't think it does, we should have a way-leave agreement with an annual fee.
Right.
Simple as that, to protect the council's property. But as I put in an email this week, I believe if the council and the expert feel that that is the ideal location, then I don't see any reason, looking at the untidy setup of the whole system, why that pole cannot be replaced with a smaller pole,
Right.
with a transmitter to a larger pole out of sight, because that's the problem, is that the large pole is needed to transmit further away. Now, it doesn't mean that pole can't be tucked away in a corner.
Okay. So let's give somebody else a chance to let's get some perspective on this. Jan, have you got anything to say on this?
Well, no, I think they need to consult the whole of Oakham about the whole
Right,
all
okay.
the CCTVs here, I agree with the location.
I think the members of the public have consulted all the person actually looking at this, so, and it has been in the papers recently. Al?
Very disappointed in the way that Rutland County Council have handled this. It's been poorly handled from the start.
That's why we kicked it out.
And it sounds like it's been continued that way. And obviously we've got nobody here tonight from Rutland County Council to advise us on how it is. I'm positive that we need something there for monitoring antisocial behaviour, possible drug dealing as well here, and things are not getting any better.
Okay.
So we do need something there. Whether this is the right thing is something else.
Okay, thank you. Sam, sorry, take a while to get in.
Interesting point made under the member of the public's deputation tonight. And it's a statement which I would need to know before I could vote for it. And that is, the member of the public said, we would all be in favour if it was in the right place. And the statement was made, it's in the wrong place and it's not covered. I want to know the range of the camera, where it needs to go to cover where the problem area is. And until I know where that is, I can't possibly vote for it. And I agree with Alf. I think that Rutland County Council have handled this appalling.
Okay, Michael, anything?
I'll echo the two
Okay.
comments that's
Yeah.
been made.
Vince?
On the report it says drug dealing, antisocial behaviour. Have we actually got a report from the police that says where the antisocial behaviour is and drug dealing? Because having played on that part, believe it or not, I was small once. Laughing at. I believe that the residents are being encroached on by what is a carbuncle on that green land, and there is no drug dealing going on there. If you're dealing with drugs, you do it out of the way, apparently. Any antisocial behaviour would not be carried out in the middle of the park, it would be carried out on the boundaries and the peripherals. So therefore I would suggest that we would throw this out and ask for a full consultation with the residents of the adjoining area to the park, not just those that are on the front side of the park, because it involves everybody.
Joyce, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just got to add, of course, that one of our, that is a postman now, was actually beaten up on that park. But there we are. Even I remember that one. That's years ago.
Oh.
Right.
You stay on there.
Let's,
But
can
I just finish,
you
please?
can,
Thank you.
yes, as long as you don't mention postman again.
Oh, God. Right. I think, like Alvin Stan, that we have been misled, that RCs, by RCC, I think they have a duty of, I was going to say a duty of care, but it just appeared. I live the nearest to that, apart from the members of the public, and I can see that from my front bedroom window. In fact, I can see the community hub and who goes in and out of there. So, you know, it just appeared one day. Can I also say that RCC have replaced that light at the end of the road, and it's appalling. You can't, it's
Okay.
no better.
There's no relevance.
So it's still dark.
Let's come to Michael then.
Well, only to add to what I said before, I think that the point that seems to be a different view about isn't one of opinion, it's one of fact. What question did they ask?
Absolutely.
So, and that ought to be on record, and do it again, record the questions asked and the responses.
Right, Al.
So can I just come back on one thing? I think we've got to be positive here with the Rutland County Council.
Yes.
It's not just a matter of saying no, if that's what we're going to say. We've got to really ask if they've done full consultation. Also, other possibilities for the location of that pole, which we haven't had as far as I can.
Well, I think Martin alluded to this, where they haven't probably, it was mentioned, I know it was mentioned on the night and it was discussed, and whether they've actually done that or not, I do not know. Right, somebody is going to have to come up with a proposal on this. Martin.
I think the proposal is what is there. The proposal is we tell them that it can't stay there. I don't think we need to tell them to go away and do another consultation, because they don't seem to have the ability to do that.
All the council here just said that they want a consultation.
But there's no point, because we've got Uppingham now up in arms. They're putting on Facebook that the council stars in.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they're not consulting the people. Well, the proposal's what's there, that we decide whether to allow the CCTV pole to be situated. That's what I'm here for this evening, and I would vote against.
That way, yeah.
So that, you know, they haven't come back in a proper way to us or the residents.
Yeah, no, what's the proposal then?
Well, the
You're saying...
proposal is that we just tell them that it's not acceptable in the current location and should be removed.
Right,
And if
so
they,
proposal from Martin...
if they do come up with
We've got to
a alternative location, then the council may reconsider.
What Mark's saying is that the Oakham Town Council will say the CCTV pole should not be situated where it is, and that Rutland County Council should do a consultation.
No,
just remove it.
Just remove it.
Remove it, but if they come up with an alternative location which would affect us, then they come back to us for...
Right.
You're saying put a positive thing in it, so that's the positive thing.
I think you're confusing the situation by making it like that.
Yeah, right. I think that what it is, you are right, two things. One you're right, one you're wrong. The thing you're right on is that let's vote on the agenda item. And the agenda item is whether to allow the CCTV pole situated to remain in its current location, and you're saying not.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's deal with that. I'm sorry, but that's the proposal. Second, please.
Well, I'll second that. I'll make an...
Yeah, no, I just, what it is we're voting either to put it there or not put it there.
I don't think Adam do it in bit by bit.
Well, I'm doing it by what it says here, because the councillor said no, and everybody that sat around here said no, except for me. So, Martin's saying, to the agenda item, to allow the CCTV pole to stay, no. Secondly by Vince.
But I think we have already amongst say we need something there.
Yeah,
by doing it this way, we're saying no to everything.
Yeah.
No, we're
Well,
not.
no, because we could always add in a piece.
Well, no, I mean, I think we have to do it now if we're going to do it.
All right then, so Martin's saying no, with a
Okay.
caveat.
If the proposal is that
It doesn't say
it
where it is.
removes, I will vote against that,
Yes,
because I think there's more to it than that.
okay.
But that,
Because they did a survey.
But then-
Just upon the cabling and everything.
Right, let's go this, because it's, I mean, it's a, you know, if the end of it's a poll.
Can I just ask, Alf, are you making another proposal?
I can make a candle vote.
Well, we've already got a proposal.
Well,
Yeah,
I-
it's on the table.
Sorry, Chairman, I was
Right,
trying
stop,
to put-
right, Martin, you carry on.
I was trying to put in the caveat that if they felt there was another location for the pole to be located within Royce Recreation Ground, then they can come for consent.
So not where it is, if they
But
got
it's
it.
got to go from where it is.
Is that not acceptable to you, Al?
No.
Right, well, that's the proposal from Martin, that it doesn't go where it is, but if they come back with an alternative location, we'll look at that.
Well,
Yes?
Yeah, but that's what they
Right,
promised us at the
that's,
meeting they were
right,
going to do.
that's what
And they didn't
Martin has
do it.
proposed. Does anybody want to second what Martin has just proposed? Let's deal with these proposals as they come up. Does anybody want to second that?
so it's an alternative location in
Royce. In
Royce.
Royce, sorry, yeah.
But they may decide to move it onto the pavement, like they threatened us with last.
So, right, okay. Martin, thank you. So Martin's proposal is that it doesn't stay where it is, but they come back with an alternative location on Royce's.
It's required.
Seconded, and then it comes back to the council. Seconded by Michael.
Can I have clarification of this, because I'm not sure what we're doing.
Right,
We've got to get
hang on,
it
right, keep it quiet a minute, please, so I just need to have a drink of water. Right over myself.
But let Arthur say what he wants in it, because he might...
No. Can I, order, can everybody be quiet, please? It's a CCTV poll. This is what we've got. Martin has said, we do not want the CCTV pole to stay in its current location on Royce's Field.
Yeah.
However, if Rutland County Council come up with an alternative location, which is still on Royce's Field, which affects us, they come back and consult with us.
Yes, and the residents.
That's the
Which they should have
proposal.
done in the first place.
And Michael, are you still prepared to second that? Okay. Have you got that anyone for us?
Yeah.
All right, vote on that proposal. You two got a vote. Jonathan, 1, 2, 3. All right, we'll put that as I'm against it, so everybody's for it. Against it. Yeah. So that's part. So basically, what that means is the pole's not going where it is, but it might be going somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's got to be taken down.
It's got to be removed. That's what we've said. All right.
No,
Yeah. Right. Do we need a 10-minute recess on the colours? Right.
On your doorstep.
It's a very, you don't have to remain for the rest of the meeting, because then we might start, I might start behaving like an adult. It's obviously a very emotive, let's see what comes back from Rutland County Council. Let's hope they do, well, we've got to do what we say.
Thank you all for listening to what we've had to say twice, and thank you all today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay.
This bit was down the
Can we
road.
bring it on?
That's
Can we
where
bring it on?
the survey was silly.
Right. Yeah, no. Right, let's repay this. Right, thank you very much for what has been a very difficult meeting so far. No, well, no, because it's getting the wording, it's getting the wording right.
Can we please just have things put through the chairman rather than cross?
Well, this is one of the
It's
problems.
happening at council, it's happening here as well, and I think we've got to stop that. We've got to make more professional.
Okay. Housing allocation policy number 11 is to consider a list of proposed changes and to make any decisions, if we have any decisions. Anybody got any comments on the orange paper? Al,
Have a further discussion.
I'll second that.
can we go back to the heart? Al proposed we accept, and it was seconded by Vince. Okay, well, yeah, because that's, I think most people have read this online. I've made some notes, and I was going to accept it because it's a very minor. The only observation I made is I was interested to see that they are rationalising it, which means they're reducing down, and it's gone from 13,761 words down to 12,975.
That's comfortable.
Proposed by Al, seconded by Vince, that we acknowledge that we accept the report. Yes, all those in favour? Unanimous.
Right.
Budget. Number 12 is the budget. So if you've got any comments or observations, the green paper, what it is, Richard's paper, has laid out what the budget is for 2016-17. £46,800 for the planning and park committee. Anybody got any comments? Al?
The increase is totally for the promotions working group on this, isn't it? I'm assessing that we're going to be seeing something like a 10% increase in the whatever it's called. Activities? No. Precept. Sorry, thank you, Joyce.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing a 10% increase in precept by the time we finish all this budget.
Possibly.
So it's around that. So people have got, the members have got to be assured that if they're going to agree these figures, how they're going to tell the people who've elected them into the
Yeah.
Because by increasing it by 10%, it's a massive increase, even though our precept is fairly small, it's still a massive increase. And it will go down on the paper as a, whatever it is, 10% increase, which you've got to justify.
And I know there's been a lot with the financial things as well, with the pensions and stuff. Michael?
I haven't had a chance to look at this, and maybe the reformed, reconstituted finance working group will, but maybe as an alternative to that the council meets the 10% out of its reserves, instead of asking for it.
Okay, well that's a potential, that's
a decision for the council.
That's a decision later on.
I mean, it'll come back to council, this will, anyway.
Yes.
But I only meant to say that is the full perspective.
Okay.
That's a good
I'm
point.
just trying to highlight that this year we're in for a large increase.
Does anybody think any of these budgets are too high and want to adjust any of them? That is what this is meant to be about. And to give you an idea, I believe that the planting and tree surgery budget of £4,500 could be reduced by 500 to 4,000. And I believe that the additional maintenance of 6,500 could be reduced down to £6,000. And the reason I've come to those conclusions, I look at what they spent in 2014, and then what they spent year to date this year, and they are being budgeted the same amount each year, but they're not getting anywhere near. So I think there's a potential saving of £1,000. Martin?
I have just a minor concern about the budget for the play equipment. After meeting the gentleman from Wicksteed Inspections, who kindly pointed out that some of the recent repairs in Cuts Close are defective already, I think we should be looking at some of the reports and possibly thinking that that figure is too low. We have quite a what is labelled moderate problem with the roundabout. Things like a seesaw, the bearings are gone again.
What value would you consider?
I have no idea, but I'm just saying I think it needs to be looked at, that report, to work out what's going to be needed to replace it. The mushroom seats have got mould all over them, disgusting, and he also tells me some of the new equipment is coming loose in Willow Crescent.
Okay, right.
And also, you say that a bench needs replacing at the corner of Longer. I know that's come up before, but it doesn't figure in with the sum of what you're saying the estimated benches are. And I wonder why we continually, and I've said it as a member of the public, why we don't get quotes for these benches, because when I tell anybody the cost of these benches, they fall over and need a bench. I personally, as a personal opinion, think the Lion's Head ones are not Victoriana. I think they're ugly. I know some people have issue and rip out these concrete ones, but to me, when Greg fixes,
not strictly budget.
easy. But there's something wrong with that figure on the street furniture, I think.
Okay, right.
Because also they're maintained every year.
All right. Al?
Sorry, so long ago I put my hand up, I can't remember what it was now. Oh yes, we only have to note this.
We only have to know, we don't know, I mean...
Because it can change at a later date.
It could change. I mean, if you have opinions, you can always drop them on an email through to Richard and sort of say, I'll be saying to him, I think there's some action coming down from here, but put a reason for it. I mean, mine could put, I think the benches should go up because whatever, or the play equipment rather. So if you do suggest it goes up, then say why it should. Joyce, and I'll come back round again.
The Lion's Head seats, it was agreed that we'd do a rolling programme in the centre of town with the Lion's Head, and that anything out of the historic core area could be a cheaper but nicer than the concrete ones.
Okay.
I wouldn't like to see the rolling programme stopped. So one bench, if it's only one bench outside Wilco's, but the one on Long Row could actually be a cheaper option, a cheaper but nicer option than what we have. And the other thing is, I've just got to say about planting and tree surgery, don't forget we're taking, or they think we're taking over the cemetery, and we've got about 40 trees there.
Yeah, I know that, and I've looked at it. And just before I let Michael speak, in 2014 we spent £2,036 on planting and tree surgery.
Yeah.
So far this year we spent 2,972, and yet we've got £4,500 in the budget for next year. Are we going to be? And the thing is, when we take over the cemetery, we're taking it over on the presumption that Rutland County Council will be doing some free works. So next year we shouldn't be incurring huge bills for trees. If we are, then we haven't done our homework. Anyway, I'm going to come round because Michael had his digit up.
I would just say in relation to what the Mayor said, I think it's in Richard's mind, and perhaps will be in the rest of the finance group's mind, to have final figures for December the 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. But we've
That will be a decision point.
We've still got from January to make those amendments if we need.
Okay.
I suppose December 9th would be fixed, so why run it right up to the last minute? But
Yes, we don't want to leave anything to the last minute.
No,
Right, is any,
there's still options.
I think the idea about people who've got ideas about this, I would say that it gets emailed through to Richard and sort of with a reason, a justification. So Joyce's reason is a good one, that we are taking over the cemetery. Maybe I'll miss that point. The thing is that we need to put it over to Richard, but we also need to be mindful of the fact of what Alf has said, that yeah, it could have an impact of 10% increase. And at a later date, if the council decides it wants to tap into its reserves, because it's not spending it on the fitness centre nowadays, then it can do that. Anybody else got any other comments? Are we just going to do an agenda item that we've acknowledged and that members will let the clerk know their thoughts?
I propose that the agenda item is noted and that members can let the clerk know thoughts on this.
And seconded by Stan. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Good. Hang on to that bit, don't I? Grounds maintenance, to receive a report and make any decisions on the grounds maintenance, which is coming up for renewal next year. Richard has also, there's loads of decisions on it, isn't there? We'll never get through this before next Thursday. Martin.
Well, I was going to suggest that as this is for next year, that it's deferred, because we don't actually know whether we're going to take over the cemetery, because that's all based on...
Not just the cemetery, it's the...
No, but that's a condition in here. We're being asked whether we need to tender with that included or not included. We don't know if we're going to take it over. Yes, this council did vote, but probably the majority of the people on this council didn't vote for it. So perhaps we should be having a new vote on that like we did for the move. Sorry?
December.
Yeah, but I would think that people on the committee are probably hopefully pushing Rutland County Council to do what was required, but I don't see much evidence of Rutland County Council doing it. So I think this whole thing should be deferred unless we just separate, and if there is a time constraint thing, and we just go for the normal grounds thing and we tender as the clerk wants it through the national thing, the press and all sorts.
Out.
And the idea of tendering together is that we get a better price.
Indeed.
If we go for grounds maintenance and the cemetery at the same time. The conundrum is that we don't know yet when or if we're going to take the cemetery over.
And we can make an informed decision if we get a quote on the cemetery.
We can do. Obviously, whether we can put into the contract that the council may be looking for further work on the Oakham cemetery in the near future. I don't think we can, thinking about it, but it's a nice thought. But, I think you've got to go for grounds maintenance because it may be October before
We
you
need to
take
do
it.
the ground maintenance one.
The ground maintenance must go through, it can't be deferred,
Yeah.
because you've got a timescale there to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay, any other comments? Rich?
Just to sort of bolster what Al said really, the fact that when the contract or when the proposal goes out, that it's made clear that there may not be a cemetery.
Okay.
So
What
that's
I-
done.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead us through this, right, one item at a time, so we're going to vote on each of these, and the first one is, right, so, are there any changes required to the schedules detailed above for the open spaces the council is currently responsible for? So this is what we currently have done just on the parks and the recreational grounds. Has anybody got any changes they want to make, yes or no?
No.
So I would propose that there are no changes made to the current open spaces council schedule.
Definitely.
Frequency of cuts,
Is-
or number, whatever it is.
Is this going to include the cemetery?
No,
Sorry.
no,
no.
Because I've got a thing to say about
No, the cemetery will be the next comment. So
Right.
this is just what we currently have on our maintenance programme. Do we want to change it, yes or no? So the proposal is we do not change it. That's what I propose. Before you say no again, before you say yes again, Vince, you
If
second.
it is the opportunity and they don't cost that much, I was wondering during the peak seasons of the summer, whether we could get them to fit in an afternoon litter clearance in, or lunchtime clearance in Cuts Close, because it can be appalling by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the evening. Because they do it first thing very well, and then by the time we've had a bit of sun,
So
the
at the peak
bins are
season,
overflowing and
Martin is adding a caveat that they do a second litter pick. I think that will cost the earth because they're there in the morning to do it and then they leave the area.
well, no, they charge about £10 for it.
Yeah, because they're there doing it when they cut the grass.
But if you're going, sorry,
Yeah.
if you're going to do that, you need to have a schedule of rates, which we don't have attached to this, and that is for any additional litter pick in Cuts Close will cost £8 or whatever. If you leave it without that, you'll get, whoever it is a successful contractor, will be able to put their own price on it, which then becomes very expensive.
Right.
So if you ask for a schedule of rates for certain operations, then whoever is the supervising officer, and I'll come to that in a minute, can then ask the contractor to do that additional work at the price quoted in the schedule of rates, and we know what it is.
So what are you proposing then?
I'm proposing that,
Martin.
I can't hear.
I'm proposing that although we go out for this work, we also have a schedule of rates for the work to be undertaken, like
Additional works.
yeah, additional work.
Like
If you want an additional grass cutting, what happens in the summer if we have a red hot summer and the grass doesn't grow so quickly?
Yeah.
There's no need really to do that cut that week or
Okay.
that day. So we need to be able to have that flexibility built into the contract.
Okay, no, that's good. So two good ideas formed into one. So the proposal is then, which I'll let you steal my proposal then, that the schedule is the same as last year, but with an additional, what do you call it? Schedule of
rates.
Rates for any additional works, as and when required.
For example, an additional litter pick, an additional grass cutting, Cuts Close,
Okay.
for instance, in each one.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to, that's the proposal. Everybody understand it? Are you happy to second that? Vince?
More than happy.
Everybody in favour of that? Let's vote. Unanimous. Brilliant. Well done. Right, then now, working together as a team. Do you want to sit next to each
Teamwork
other?
in.
Right, number 2. Should the tender to the maintenance of the cemetery be separate from the tender for the maintenance of other open spaces? So do we want... My reaction is yes. Comments?
I think
Mine?
in this circumstances, unfortunately, probably yes.
Yes. But it's a big, huge
But
answer.
later on, we could combine it.
Yeah, if I was a contractor, I'm not sure how I would tender for the cemetery if I didn't know when it was going to start.
Well,
And that's because any tenderer must obviously build up their equipment to do the work. It may be that we might get a very, very good charge from,
yeah.
we might get a very good tender from somebody who's, I don't know, just set up or is a small
Well,
operation.
the cemetery tender includes digging graves.
Yeah, well, that's
So
subbed out, I think.
Now,
Dan?
I'm so sorry.
Right,
Did you finish?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I can see.
Um,
Not to say go on.
I would want to, I want to question that.
I can't hear.
I would want to question that because there are separate grave diggers.
Yeah?
And certainly the cemetery as a host to look after. They had a separate grave digger, and the company that did the maintenance most certainly didn't do the grave.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I think I've got things to put down.
Yeah, have we got two there, or is that
You've got to see what then?
grave diggers at the cemetery?
No, there's hired help.
This side, so it's subcontracted?
Yes.
Or potentially subcontracted?
Yeah.
Right.
Burke and Hare, I think. Right, George, you were going to say something?
They dig, or did they dig up?
Dig up, no.
Do they cross the road? The soil.
Yes, in the contract they put a skip, I don't know why they cut, take soil away, but there was a skip there.
It was dreadful today. There's a recent interment there, and there's a great load of soil to be taken away.
Soil is removed.
Enough for 2 coffins. Yeah? There's that much soil that's got to be taken away.
Right.
I haven't.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you'd finished then.
In the cemetery one, there is nothing that says how do we deal with pests, because the rabbits are rife again. Not only evidence of where they've been, but I've seen 2 today. And the other thing is, I go down on a weekly basis now, and the litter bin, I think it says something about when it's reasonably full or something. I was thinking, when is it going to be reasonably full? Because last week the litter bins were absolutely overflowing all over the floor. Today they have been emptied. Don't know when, but there isn't a schedule of going down and doing the litter bins. Pest control.
Right, okay. I'll come to Michael because you haven't spoken.
Thank you. How far down the road are we taking over the management of the cemetery?
That close. In December, we've got an agenda item coming on where the question is, because we've now got the everything that we'd asked for, without going on to that, has been green lighted. And the Rutland, whereas Al's raised the point that they haven't, or somebody's raised the point that they haven't done any work yet, or the work doesn't look like it's being done, Rutland County Council won't do the work until we say we're definitely taking it over. And we're making that decision in December, or I'm asking for us to make that decision in December, because it's gone on for 12 months.
Should we not then be considering this after that decision has been made?
We can defer the cemetery decision till December. We can put it on to December's meeting. Yeah? Al, go on.
Sorry.
I'll come to you.
As far as I can see, the tender for grounds maintenance will come back in February time, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a bit about that. It will take a couple of months.
Yes, I mean, they need at least a month running, I think, to the contract starting. So probably we'll be, thinking about it, we'll probably be agreeing the contract in January, thinking about it. By then, hopefully, we will have made a decision and Rutland County Council got on and done the work for us to take the cemetery over. Now, we are then to make a decision on whether it's going to be 1st of April or some other date.
Yes.
It would be nice to be able to link these 2 contracts together, because I think we would get the benefit of that. But at the moment, we cannot do that. So I would say that we've got to go out initially with the ground maintenance. But perhaps we can have a caveat in that to say it's quite likely that once we've got a date, the cemetery, the contract for the cemetery will be put forward as well.
Yes. Okay.
But it's a bit hairy-fairy. We cannot actually state when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, which is strange.
Okay, Mike.
If you're asking us in December to go with or not go with taking over the cemetery, yes, I understand what Alf is saying about the dates, but he also is attracted to, like I was, having both together, because obviously that reduces the cost. Now, if we are that close to that, is there no way that an extraordinary meeting of the council can be called so that this could all be deferred, that decision made, and a week or 2 for the contract? I don't think it's going to make that. We're nearly in December as it is now. I think that important decision needs to be made so that.
Only a couple of weeks, isn't it? You're right.
But we can pull the meeting forward, a special meeting, just to make that decision, and then do this.
We are about 2 to 3 weeks away from the next council meeting, and in actual fact, to me, I would propose that we defer the decision on tendering out for the cemetery till December. Because if the council votes against taking out the cemetery, there's no point in tendering. And with only a couple of weeks, I mean, Richard, with all the best will in the world anyway, it's going to take him about a week and a half, 2 weeks to get the paperwork out. So I would defer until December's meeting. But, no.
Is there any reason why we couldn't tender for the cemetery anyway?
Well, we said that at the beginning, really.
Yeah, well, you don't have to accept it. Do you?
No, this is true, yeah.
As long as the people tendering realise it may not...
That it may not start on the 1st of April.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's...
It may not start at all.
Or it might not even start at all.
So, I think because everyone's talking across the table, I'm told.
But, I don't know, there's a possibility to know.
Okay.
Don't know.
Item 2 on here, should the tender of the maintenance of the cemetery be separate from the tender of the maintenance of open spaces, yes or no? So I'm proposing, you see, it's a separate item, but we need to tender at the same time to get the best rate, that's what we're saying. So the proposal is that we put out for the cemetery tender at the same time, that's my proposal.
Yes.
Anybody want to second that? Stan, all those in favour? Mike, are you against?
I'm against.
Right, so that's Mike against, everyone else is for it. The level of maintenance required at the cemetery, should anything be changed on the document that we had from Rutland County Council? Al?
From what I've seen of this document,
Martin?
what I've seen from this document is that the standard of the cemetery at the moment should not be like that if that hasn't been maintained to this contract. It is obvious then, if it's not being maintained to the contract, they do not have sufficient supervising staff to make sure the work is done.
Correct.
My concern would be, if it is a concern, that if and when we take over the cemetery and we take over the contract, we should appoint some form of supervising officer.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at government individuals.
No, the thing is, it could be a councillor.
Well,
It's interesting.
obviously it's not.
No, but the thing is,
There's options available. That's all I'm saying. But one thing we must do is have somebody who's nominated supervising officer to make sure this work is done.
okay.
At the present time, it is quite obvious to me that it's not managed at all.
No, and this came up in meetings that Joyce and Stan and I attended, where in actual fact there have been occasions when the contractor hasn't done the work and they've been pulled up. They have a fine system. Joyce?
One or two things. 9.4. The contractor shall empty all litter bins within the cemetery routinely and before they are full. That's what I'm bringing up. Now, it is rabbits. I've done it down there today. The giant redwoods have dropped their needles and they are 4 inches thick and you can't find where the footpath is. Also, there is one headstone dated 2008 and is now starting to lean. And that hasn't got any orange fencing around. There's a lot to be done that people really ought to just go and have a look. You can't see the entrance of the path around by the giant redwoods at all. And I've just scraped them all away just to show.
I'm going to come to Stan first, then Michael, then Al. So Stan.
Sorry, I keep coming back.
7.15.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, no grade shall exceed 2.4 metre then.
What I meant to do was to convert that into what I understand
8 foot.
in inches. It was 8 foot.
2.4 metres is 8 foot.
Oh, in which case then, yeah, it's a double one on top of the other. I was concerned that sometimes somebody wants to be buried on top of their wife.
And that's all then.
Perhaps I should rephrase that.
Yeah. What about somebody else's wife? Right, Michael.
Have your discussions with RCC on the subject of the cemetery today been against the background of this document being available?
We were aware of this document, yes.
Have you had it in your possession?
Yeah, I've read it. I've gone through it with a fine tooth comb.
All right, so leaving off point that Alf made, that it does seem clear cut that if this had all been carried out to a reasonable standard, good standard, whatever is the term, it wouldn't be in the mess it is.
Hit the nail on the head. Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
and is it Mark?
Lauren.
He's new, isn't he, to the job?
Newish, yeah.
Well, I know he's new because I heard
Yeah.
him talking about 6 months ago
Yeah.
on some other subject.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be relevant. He was in some similar job before, but it's quite germane, isn't it, the failure to fulfil this?
Yes, and one of the reasons I think that we should go with this as the benchmark for what we should have tendered against is that way we know how much Rutland County Council pay. If we get a tender based on this document, then we know whether it's going to be in line with what they've been paying as well. And it's a start point, because we've never run a cemetery before.
Can we get, is it possible to get, as Joyce has done with the neighbourhood plan, a document for a similar cemetery somewhere else?
Not,
Cemetery maintenance document. No, I'm alluding to what you did with the
Right.
neighbourhood plan in a separate
I
area.
haven't done anything with neighbourhood plans.
Shall I leave you to do it? Al?
I don't think it would do as much good to get another one, Michael, because each contract is written for the cemetery which it applies to. So, I mean, from what I've seen of this, I used to work at Rutland District Council in the days when they ran that cemetery, and it was in very good condition, very good condition indeed. I couldn't tell you what the cost was, but it was no problem at all. And at that point, Joyce, you were talking about vermin, rabbits were still coming through from the railway line and still doing it. So, I mean, you've got to have some form of barrier. But then,
I think what it is, we just have with British Rail and not to stop off and drop on
yeah,
there.
but I've got to come back to this point I made earlier on, if you don't mind me.
Yeah.
And that is that when we take on this contract, we must have a supervising officer nominated to look after it.
Yeah. No, that's...
And that's something we need to discuss at a future date.
Yes.
A paid supervisor.
Yeah, I'm not saying paid.
Okay, a supervisor. Martin? No, you're not the supervisor.
No, I wouldn't have a clue. We're supposed to be sort of talking about the level of maintenance and that, but I don't understand what sort of levels are really supposed to be, apart from it's without a mess. But what concerns me about this is it's never been put very clear to me what we're actually doing as a council. Are we just going to be managing the maintenance, or are we going to be responsible for everything? And if that's the case where we're just, there's an income, we don't like to talk about it, but there's an income, no one's ever mentioned that. I'm concerned, where's the money going to come from for this maintenance?
It's all in here. The maintenance and what actually is required, it's all down to grave digging and all the rest of it. It's all contained within that document that's
Yeah, I know, I'm talking about the overall cost of doing this. Where's the money coming from?
Comes from the people that are buried.
But it hasn't said that.
Well, no, it's irrelevant to this.
That's the previous report, I think.
Yes, it will come out in the cemetery meeting next month.
Right.
Yeah. There is enough money in it, allegedly.
Are we as council considering then to take over the whole thing?
Yes.
Or become open
Yeah,
council
but it's not relevant to
property?
this.
Well, it is, because if you're taking it over, you want to do it properly.
Right.
If we take it over,
Yeah.
we've got to do it properly.
I'm not being funny, guys, but at the end of the day, once again, the questions are quite straightforward. You've got the document here which covers the level of maintenance that we're meant to be talking about. We're not talking about whether we're going to get money for people that are being buried there. We're not talking about the rabbits coming off the trains line or anything like that. We're talking about the level of maintenance, because that's what it's about, and that's why this document's quite detailed. We've got it from Rutland County Council, because this is the one, if we do go out to tender, this is what we should use. Do we want to change anything on that document? Do we want to have more lift pits? Do we want to have, I don't know, 20-foot graves? Out.
I suppose that we stay with the same level of maintenance, but again, get a schedule of rates for any additional work.
Okay, brilliant. So that's the proposal, seconded by Michael. All those in favour? Who's abstaining? 2 against? Or you?
Against.
Right, Joyce is against, and
Only
Michael's
because of
abstaining.
the vermin.
Well, I think the vermin needs to come under a separate thing, because vermin can,
You can't say yes to this when it's not included in it.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
the control of vermin is something separate outside this trust. This is just a standard running maintenance.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yeah, okay.
I'm too sure.
Right. The next item on this list is how long should the contract be for? And Richard has said 4 years. How?
2020.
2020, that's 3 years, is it? 3.5 years? Yeah, that's 5 years, isn't it? 5 years.
The new council takes over in 19, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think he's putting in the paper there, it would be really poor of us actually if we actually let it run from 1990. And the new council took over and had to look at this contract. So I propose it's a 5-year contract.
Okay, well, that's sound reasoning.
4-year contract, sorry, 20.
Yeah. Any advance on 5?
That makes sense.
It does make, yeah.
Is there any,
If that's the proposal, I'd second it.
Just 5 years.
just one question on that, would we put a caveat of get out of jail card in that?
If they're rubbish.
Yeah.
If they do not perform the standard, then they will
That's, you know, 5 years is a long time if somebody's underperforming.
That's a standard.
This is my standard speech tonight. If you've got a supervising officer, the supervising officer will note.
I think this should be deferred for some perhaps group, whether it's with Oakham and Bloom representative, to go out again and decide what is required, because we have a situation where a number of shops are now using our brackets, I say ours as a town council, because they don't want our baskets. And to me, this tender document, it doesn't give the true picture of what the situation is.
Okay.
I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, but we need to do a complete review, just like the dry cleaners said to me, where's my basket? Well, because one trader didn't want them in Market Street, no one got them.
Okay.
So, but we paid for them. That's the point to get across, is we're paying for things we're not getting.
Michael.
I propose that the group who are responsible for the Christmas lights should take on the role of thoroughly re-looking at floral displays.
Steve, I've got that thing. Okay.
Proposal.
Right, that's a proposal by Mike. Don't laugh, you lot. That's it.
Yeah, not done, have we?
Yeah. Right. So I think Martin's made a point that it should alternately be reviewed. Michael has made a proposal that it should be looked at by maybe a different group within the.
No, that's not what he said.
He said you.
Actually, the people that look at the lights are the promotion publicity working group, isn't it?
Yes, it's all there.
It's not. I think that's just to bring people into the town, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Joyce, you want to
Motion, I second that motion.
we're going to try it because I'm coming to Joyce for a bit of sensible. Right, thank you. Over to Councillor Lucas.
Hanging baskets really should be, I'm sorry, watered twice a day. I think it's up to the shops to water. The other thing, there's two things. They stopped watering, and it took us a fortnight or 3 weeks to take the baskets down, by which time they were dead. They should be taken down the minute the contract for watering was finished, because 1 or 2 shops actually did water and kept them going, but they looked dreadful. And can we, I don't know how this is going to work, but can I suggest that we should, the brackets belong to Oakham Town Council. We put them up. But a lot of them are defunct. You've only got to look at Calico. So why don't we take the brackets down that are not being used? Because I'm sure the judges for Oakham and Bloom noticed the empty brackets. There's loads of empty brackets about the town, and they really need to come down. I know we're talking about tenders and things, but it's observations.
I think Michael has summarised what you said there by saying that the whole thing should be reviewed.
Yes.
Okay, there's a proposal, preposterous. What is it?
Preposterous.
Yes. Proposal on the table.
Muriel.
Yeah. Anyway, Councillor Elliott has proposed that the contract is reviewed by the Promotion Publicity Working Group. Does anybody want to second that?
Can I add in conjunction with Oakham and Bloom?
In conjunction with Oakham and Bloom. Seconded by Councillor Lucas.
I'm the rep for Oakham and Bloom.
All those in favour? Are you in favour?
Yes, I said it.
You've not put your hand
Are you
up.
abstaining or voting against?
You've not put your hand up.
Yes. Yeah, I'm totally with it, yeah. It's unanimous. All right? Unanimous. So there's nothing more to discuss on that, is there?
No.
Thanks. Nervous. Right, well done. Green flag. Hopefully everybody's read Alison's report, which is on email. No, right, okay. Alison's done a very comprehensive green flag report. It's still in its development, I think.
Yeah, everybody's got it.
Anybody any comments?
Then they can email.
Email. Any comments now?
It
Anybody?
won't get submitted till January.
Unfortunately, I'm not receiving any emails from the council, so I haven't received it. Not your fault.
Do you want a hard copy?
Yes, please.
Would you like a hard copy as well?
Yes, please.
Can you do a hard copy for Joyce and one for Michael Hayden, please? Any other comments? Okay.
Sorry to say that, actually, if one of the others emails it to me, I don't think a hard copy, but anybody else can email it to me. It's just the council's emails aren't reaching me.
How?
Do you want to? Oh, no, you don't. Mark, can you email Mark?
There's a link on the website.
There's a link on
Oh,
the
is there?
website.
I'll
Oh, no.
leave it.
No.
Has it gone?
I'll forward it.
That's an old one, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
Can you just get a hard copy one for Mark?
Yeah, that was probably already 5 years ago.
Make
No,
notes of
that's
it.
not best.
I'll try and email it to my information.
Okay.
If we all try,
Yeah.
we might get a copy.
End up with 20 copies, I don't know why. Not from 20
It
councillors,
should
have we?
be on there.
Okay, right, so what we're doing
I didn't
then,
look at it, I saw the link.
we don't need to vote on that, it just, no,
Did anybody read it?
I read it.
Yes.
I noticed that all the green signs have been repaired as well, haven't they?
I did make a comment about that.
Still
That
the
was
old
my only
photos.
comment, but the history part is very interesting for anybody who doesn't know the history of how Harrison came to get hold of cuts when it was on there.
Let's not go into it now,
Can I
please.
just ask something? Not submitted. Do we have a board there describing the history of
No.
No.
But that is something nice to have.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one there, but...
Yeah, oh, there was, yeah.
Is this something... Is this something that Joyce and Michael are going to the Castle project, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you want to mention that? See if the Castle project is going to be doing a board.
Interpreted for.
Yes.
Not in Cook's Close.
Well, why not? Because it's going to be an access through Cuts Close, isn't
When,
it?
when you think about it, it's a prime park, you know, and there's
Yeah.
nothing there to say. I think there's something there that says Cuts Close.
Yes,
That's
but
about
there used to
it.
be
Yeah, but you want something there that people can look at and
Yes, it
see
used to
what
be
it's
that.
all about.
Okay, I would say, because we're noting comments on this, is that should be an action that maybe Michael's already making notes anyway, that when you have your meeting saying, are Rutland County Council planning on having a board? If not, report back to Alison, and then it can come up as an agenda item later on, that maybe we should have one, okay? But we don't need to vote on that, because that can be passed as Michael's going to carry that forward, so it's a note. Brilliant.
The cat's on.
It's always better
Oh,
with
lift
the
the cap off.
It's better with the cap on, you don't get confused.
I'll do the other camera.
It's, well, I can't see from
Move it,
here.
that way, that way.
What do you want to take it off? Oh, normally it's open. Very dirty.
So I'm just getting it warmed up.
Oh, yeah, I forget you looked at that.
Yeah, what it is, we've noted it, and anybody's got any comments, they're going to email you directly. Michael is going to carry forward the questions to the meeting and then...
Let's come over this way.
Yeah, I don't want to put it in Joyce's eye. It's not good
This
for
way.
your eye.
Okay.
It's got the colour card. Alison's got the colour.
Your lecture's got a colour card.
I think that's the colour card.
You need to put something behind the plug.
Oh, yeah.
Look at
Behind what? Behind the plug?
it's got a dodgy leak, all the money you spend on water, you can't get decent equipment.
If you want to just hold that all right. If you can hold it in your teeth.
Yeah,
That's it.
you'd love that, wouldn't you?
That's better, isn't it? Eh? Good.
Put
That's
the
much
plug
better.
in my mouth.
That's the 56 of it.
That's a
Why is it all wonky now?
Yeah.
Right, come on.
Right. Planning
Yeah, the
application.
whole thing is just naturally
Turn the board.
Yeah, can you
It's a
move
room,
the
it's all right.
screen?
Normally,
Right, thank you. Planning applications, to consider the following applicants. MacArthur and Stone Retirement, Lifestyles. This is the elderly people's living thing.
That was mine.
That's nice, isn't it? If you want, some of the members want to pick theirs now.
I've already bought it.
Not at the price they quoted.
Sorted, I didn't say it.
I thought that's what this was about.
Too much hilarity.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, come on, because it's 9:15 and the apprentice is on at 9.
No, we've got
£260 to book it.
Okay, anybody got any sensible comments to make about this? Anybody got any objections? I have to have some concerns raised to me about the amount of surface water. There's been an issue with the Catmus campus when it was done, and the allotments on not Kilburn Road, on Land's End Way were getting flooded.
Yeah.
However, having looked at these detailed plans, the first thing that's noticed is that the foul and surface water, the storm water, comes down onto the Barleythorpe Road and comes through that watering system. The other thing is that the hard standings, in other words where the car parks are, is all done with permeable paving. So surface water will soak into the natural, So these people put a little bit of thought into it. It's got a green element, and there's going to be minimal impact on trees, I believe. Minor.
So that's what I was hoping, but for the flood issues, I think they are aware of it. Larkfleet next door have built a very big container which is a pond, I guess, now. So that I think they are aware of flood issues. I don't object to the need of the boxes for older people in our community. But I do find that the development is probably one of the least attractive of what they've previously built. I went to the exhibition and I did point that out to them. I think they're trying to unfortunately keep it in keeping with what Larkfleet Hawksmead are building, and I think that's a bit unfortunate because they do build some very attractive buildings.
Michael?
Well, with one exception, they appear to be planting trees.
Yes,
So why aren't the developers next door and all over the place not required to do the same thing?
hopefully nobody wants to see the old people. Okay, proposal to accept that.
Just one observation
Go
before
on.
we go to proposal. That is obviously in the old Lonsdale position.
Yeah.
You've got a main road between there and Huntsman's Drive.
Yeah.
I would be concerned with elderly members of our community crossing a very busy road with no provision to join their friends over the other side and vice versa. So we need to sort of say, yes, I would adopt full application with provision for a crossing of some description.
Pelican.
Yeah, that's or an underpass or whatever.
George.
The other thing is, if they want to walk into town from that side, they've got to negotiate Land's End Way.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible crossing there.
Okay. Martin.
The other thing I forgot to mention was an important thing as well, because although they have said themselves in recent communications it's not in their interest to have a lack of parking spaces, I would imagine that these people are going to have visitors, and there is exactly one parking space less from the number of dwellings. Can't remember off the top of my head the number, but sorry?
43.
And there's only 42 parking spaces. Now there will be staff working there.
To make provision for the staff for one parking.
But then
There's only one
there's
employee.
there's not enough, despite what they say, I don't believe there's enough parking, because people do drive now, particularly if you live in this area to an older age, and I don't think they've made enough provision for parking there.
They, Joyce.
It's just that you and I have had this conversation, and they've actually got a
Buggy park.
buggy park, which I think is quite nice, but they still can't get across those two junctions in a buggy.
So,
We've got to include
Highways.
crossing.
so the proposal is that we are in favour of it, that we believe there should be a pelican crossing because of the...
Crossing Barleythorpe Road to Huntsman's Drive.
Two pelican
And
crossings.
crossing Land's End Way.
Provision of two pedestrian crossings, preferably Pelican type, not just a
Yeah.
Deborah.
Okay.
I'll second the application.
That's proposed by Vin, seconded by Stan. All those in favour? Unanimous?
Yes.
Well done. Hawksmead proposed hotel and associated work. Now this hotel has come up before. Now this is only an outline planning application. I think it's important what Mr. Beach raised. He did raise some points which I wasn't aware of. Even though I've read their application, I didn't know that they were referring to stuff going back to the event. I didn't pick up on that. And that they were looking at national statistics. And there are 83 establishments in Rutland. There are 1,280 bed spaces. Now,
We're looking at this on a planning condition, not on a commercial basis. If the hotel chain wants to build a hotel
yes.
and it fails, that's the hotel's problem. What we're concerned about is the planning considerations surrounding it.
Yeah.
But what we have to be aware of, I totally agree, but of course if it does fail, we don't want a derelict hotel there.
I doubt we would have it.
Lonsdale House, like.
Yeah. Anyway,
I
so...
mean, we can't look that far forward and say it's going to fail.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, good point.
Convert it to our medical practice.
So, we bet. Anyway, any proposals then? Anybody got any... I'll come to Martin first now.
I think it's actually a good addition to Oakham because it's affordable. It will also employ more people than most of the other establishments. I'll try not to make it personal. I had some friends who stayed in an establishment in Oakham who had to pay £140 each, and the standard wasn't good. If they had a budget place to stay, they would have stayed at the budget place.
Okay,
And I think you've got to give the balance. We don't have a budget, and I see this as an employment place and a need, especially for the bird fair.
Is there a proposal then on the table from Al?
I propose, yeah.
You'll be
Recommend
accepted?
acceptance, yeah.
And seconded by Stan. All those in favour? Michael, you in favour? Yes. So that's only one against.
Who's that?
How are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
The council voted for it many years ago.
I have my reasons.
I'm sure you must have.
That's what it is. Partial Carlton Street trading. This is the Merry Monk. This is interesting.
It is.
There has been a lot of outcry from the Merry Monk about antisocial behaviour, and yet nobody seems to have really said anything about it in the local residents. There's no real resident that's come forward and said no on it within that area. There might be a perception that maybe a hotel will calm things down a bit and it will be less ASB. Okay, Mike.
The only concern I had on it is that it is in a historic area of Oakham, and I did find it amusing that they said that the buildings at the back were slightly uneven and higgledy-piggledy. Well, that's what you get with old buildings. But my major concern did actually relate to the residents, and it surprised me that perhaps they don't know about this application.
They will be contacted.
Because the beer garden has been shoved up to the top, which obviously people smoke, people are going to come out from the bars, and I can see that the fact that they decided they're going to build on the left, if you're looking from the rear of the property, and the beer garden in the top right-hand corner, right next to what is really the start of residents' homes. Why couldn't they have done it mirror image to contain the noise, the beer garden down behind some buildings or something?
Okay.
That was just my concern.
Thank you. Finn.
I've got a couple of concerns. One is parking. I'm assuming they're going to be used in the car park at the end of Church Street.
Yep.
Second is the offloading and loading of linen, etc., to do with the commercial turnover of that Church Street, being as narrow as it is. It causes yet another blockage within the town, and I think it's one of the things that we overlook when we say, yes, that's going to be a good idea, that will bring lots of people into the town. That's it.
Sam.
It's 12 bedrooms.
That's 12.
12.
Right.
I spoke to the planning officer. I wanted to see a street scene plan, because I wanted to see how it blended in. No such thing, they haven't got one. And I mentioned about parking, and he said when a property like this with a hotel is in the centre of like a town, the use of the local car park and referred to the car park
Yeah.
in Church Street, and that's what they would be using.
Most people that stay there at night, most of us that have stayed in hotels, you get there at 6 o'clock in the evening or after, and you're told you can park there, but you've got to be out by 8 in the morning, otherwise, the ticket may not get in. And that's a very common practice these days, so it's not unreasonable.
Is there a front elevation on that?
No, definitely not. I think one thing I looked at it didn't look like the front had actually really changed that much, and I don't think it can, because it's conservation area. Isn't it?
That's why I wanted to see the front elevation.
Were you going to say something, Vince?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I accept what you say about that. However, look at the high street.
Oh, the
Yeah,
panel, there is
yeah.
one, you're right, there is.
Well, I'm going to come to Martin, then I'll come to Michael. Martin.
There's no change externally on the front, it's unfortunately all at the back, but inside we're down to one little bar and they've already destroyed what some people who like pubs, it's completely stripped and lost. But outside the front is not going to be changed at all.
Okay. Michael, Mr. Elliott first, then I'll come to you, Mr. Hay.
This is a bit off-ball, but does anybody know anything about the odd house and what might be proposed there?
No.
No.
It might be a hotel. Well,
The old house.
well, it's not doing anything else very well, is
No,
it?
it's not what we're talking about.
No, it's only, is it a good thing to have this in the centre of the town for the reasons you've all been saying?
Okay.
A bit further.
It's here already.
Michael Haley.
I share Vince's concern about traffic management.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard lots of comments. Have we got any proposals?
I'll recommend acceptance.
Proposed acceptance. Seconded by Stan. All those in favour? 1, 2, I'm in favour. 3. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The reasons.
If it had a caveat on to say,
What's the reasons for abstaining?
absolutely.
No, vote.
No, we voted against.
Yeah, reasons for it.
Sorry, what's the reasons for voting against it?
Because of,
Well, you can,
what's been stated.
I think it's important because it is
The reasons of the street.
What are the reasons for voting against it?
You need some reasons for voting against.
The reason for voting against is purely because I believe the impact that this will have on the local traffic management would be yet again
Unacceptable.
an acceptable state. Yes, thank you very much.
Something like that.
No, we agreed to accept it, we voted 3 for and 5 against.
You don't need to give the reason because you voted to accept it, not refusing it.
No, yeah.
I mean,
Full.
if we are refusing.
So you're not, you said you're going to accept
We
it.
voted to accept,
No,
you voted to accept, Stan said
But
second,
the
we 3
council-
said yes.
The council
we
voted
said
against
no.
it. Therefore, the council has voted against it.
So it fell.
So so the reasons are that it's, so it's falling.
Traffic and falling, so now you want to have the reason.
Yeah, and then we'll put in the reasons that
Due to.
down to some traffic management issues, although
And
I will say that this will come back because when they had a pub there, the brewery that delivered beer would have had exactly the same issues as the deliveries. Martin,
Yeah, I was going to say that the deliveries into Dean Street, they used to just reverse into the green gate and then come out. But the reason I object to it is because it's in the conservation area and it's an old building, even the park's on the back. It's a bit of a maze and higgledy-piggledy, but I don't like to discuss.
well, we don't, and that's not a bad reason. Thank you, Alison's got that down, because in that fact, when we refused the Merry Monk to have adjustments done, about a year ago, because they wanted to extend out the back, and we refused because of conservation area and the impact on people. So,
And that was supported by residents.
So traffic management issues, living deliveries and conservation area.
yes.
Anything else?
And I believe would you use the terminology by making it into a hotel at the back, it would be in keeping with the rest of the buildings then?
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
very interesting.
Dean's hold.
not in keeping.
Very good.
In keeping.
Very good.
Okay,
It's not the fire station.
there being no other business, it's now
4 minutes.
4 minutes to 9, and the meeting is finished. Thank you very much. I hope everybody's going to be down on Sunday evening for the Christmas lights switch.
I expect to see you there, adjusting the light. None of that just throwing
I meant to guess who gets the nearest. Do it.
Yeah?
I hope your idea of boxing down on the service goes ahead, because that will relieve me of the
It's quite good when you fix biology because you know they're very popular with circus workshops. That's what Pindar circus do on top of their shows, and they really do like it. The children around here.
Oh, not far out.
Oh, is that hard? That's hard. I wonder whether you do.
Yes,
What we need to
my
do.
grandchildren will do it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good reason why.
Did you see Mr. Beach going after the vote? Because he likes to go to the hunt.
Yeah, I was coming into theatre Friday morning.
It's a Tory thing, unfortunately, bringing politics this week.
What I couldn't understand.
Mr. Duncan won't be very happy with what we've done.
You mentioned a pub in Wales. I suppose.
Somebody else signed this card?
What?
Have you signed this card, Joyce?
What's that?
Richard's birthday.
Richard White's birthday.
Richard's 50th.
All right.
Everybody signed.